Hey, Masters of Speed, it's a Terra Master. That's Cursive. We're not doing the Not Justice intro. That's only funny once or twice, not 700 times. That is a picture of Drake filling in
There
for
he is.
Drake.
Right there.
That's our moderator. Don't worry. The communication is all telepathic. Well, we know exactly what the
Exactly.
topics are.
Yeah.
Um, the reason it's easy to know what the topics are, by the way, is because there's one. What's
There's one topic. It's a very exciting one.
Yeah. What's our one topic?
It's it's basically the meta, the decks.
Yep.
Yep. That's it.
That's it. We just need a good 30 minutes to rant about these decks.
Yep. Nothing else happening in Speed Duels at the moment. Sounds about right.
Literally nothing else. Everything has been very quiet since the new list. All right. So, Cursive, take us
Yes.
into the decks. What is the best deck of Duelist of Shadows format, by the way?
So to go over this, I'm essentially going to just be looking at the document that is directly connected to the Speed Duel League leaderboard. We have given points to all of the decks. This, just to let you know, first guess doesn't count. There's 33 points given to the number one deck. Terramaster, do you have any guesses? First guess doesn't count.
What do you mean first guess doesn't count?
It means it doesn't count. So if you get it right, it doesn't count. You have to guess at least twice.
Oh, okay. First, it's Duelist of Shadows, right? So it's got to be It's got to be Evil Hero.
Sorry, Evil Hero is actually in 7th place.
So close. All right. We'll go the boring answer. Is it Beat Down?
It is Joey Beatdown.
Yep. Welcome to Speed Duel, where you could have evil heroes, but instead you get Joey Beatdown.
And Joey Beatdown is 24 points ahead of second place, which is Cyber Angels.
Oh, that's a new no, it's not. Just kidding.
No.
It's not.
But thankfully, Cyber Angels are tied with Dark Scorpions for second place. So we do have something new there.
We do. That's Dark Scorpions is a lot of fun. We kind of predicted it would be about in this spot where it was like kind of okay, but not the top of everything. Yeah. So, all right, good to see that there. It does suck that you can't play it in remote events. For us specifically, because we would probably have fun playing that. But
yes,
you know, that's Speed Duel for you. You have something fun, and then it is immediately snatched away for no good reason.
Yeah. Literally no good reason. The effect that they're worried about, you don't even activate, like, ever.
Nope. I don't know why in Yu-Gi-Oh! We don't have more, like, flexibility, more adaptation, more like, the situation is this. So in this situation, it makes a lot more sense to ban the effect.
Yes.
And
it's an optional effect.
Right.
You don't have to activate anything. Nope. So if there's nothing to bounce, just cannot activate your optional effect.
Right. But instead we have to be like, oh yeah, no, just ban the card. The whole card.
Ban the card, which basically bans the deck.
Yep. All right. Whatever.
All
right. Anyway, why don't we talk about Joey Beatdown?
Yeah, before we go any further with what's on the list here, let's go ahead and talk about the most fun deck of the format, Joey Beatdown. So it plays Joey. Thankfully, Konami hit this skill card, put it to the 3F section, really helped slow the deck down.
So much. So coming fresh off Toxic Judgment number 2, actually, which if my uploads go as planned, will be on the channel the day after this podcast is, the top cut for that. And you'll see different variants of Joey in that, just in that top 8. You'll see there's the Banisher variant, and then there's the Battle Survivor variant. And I'm sure there's like other things you can do with it too, right?
Yeah, but that's basically what most people you're going to see doing.
Yeah. But it's so sad that we're at the point that we're still seeing so much Charging Gaia.
Yes, I know. Charging Gaia came out in Match of the Millennium.
Yep. It's still here in the best deck. It's not just like still around. It's tier 1. And that's not good. That's not what you want.
It's not.
Because Match of the Millennium was 3 years ago.
And that means we are still saying that a 1900 normal summon is meta. It's like the best we can find.
Yep. Yeah. Volcanic Rocket was it a few months ago.
Yep.
Now it's Charging Gaia. Why? Because of the things the recent list did. One of the things that happened is 2100 defense is really good. Why is 2100 defense really good? Because the format is so bad, people are playing Zero Gravity.
Zero Gravity is a meta card. It is used in almost every single deck.
Yep. So 1900, 2100, very good stat line. Because if you get Zero Graved, okay, you better have Droroid to get over this Gaia.
Yep, exactly.
Does that sound like exhilarating gameplay?
It is exhilarating. It is so exciting. I love when my opponent slaps down a Banisher or slaps down a Battle Survivor after flipping Joey up at the start of the duel. I'm like, let's go. Yeah. This is speed duels, man.
This is combos. This is Yu-Gi-Oh, right? The one game where there's no restrictions on how many cards you can play. There's no restrictions on the amount of comboing off, of popping off you can do in a turn, other than your opponent's disruption. What we want is to play one card per turn.
Yeah, that's it. Just normal, set 3, pass.
Yep, cool.
That's it.
All right, that's Joey. Do we need to talk more about it?
No, I mean it's an anti-meta deck, but the meta's power level is too low, so anti-meta is better than all of it. So, yeah.
Anti-meta is so strong it becomes meta, because the meta is not strong enough to consistently beat the anti-meta.
Yeah, exactly.
Even after siding, which, like, normally in Yu-Gi-Oh, when you had, like, stun decks and such, you could at least side your way into beating them.
Yep.
But that's not what Speed Duel has become, because the so-called...
They take away our spot removal.
Right, they do. They do. They do. And it's so strange. I don't get it. All right. Anyway.
Yeah, that's Joey. 33 points, wins every event, nothing new. Who cares?
Yep. All right, move on.
All right, let's talk about Cyber Angels. That is currently our number 2 deck as per our point system. What do you think about CAs in this format, Terra Master?
I think it's a lot healthier than it has been in the past. Because of the lower consistency and the lack of follow-up that they have a lot of times. It seems like a very beatable deck, yet also very strong at the same time. Now, would I still hit it differently? Yes. I still don't want it to be around, because I still think just the Izana with protection from targeting and destruction, where it hits back on the target, and the protection from destruction straight up, is still a card that the format isn't ready to compete with. If we had things that could compete with that, then it would be fine.
Well, listen to what competes with it, okay? You have a Banisher or Macrocosmos already set up, so they're not getting their protection, right? Or you're using a skill to out their Izana, in which case the protection doesn't work.
Right.
And guess what? Banisher is just stupid. It's an anti-meta thing, such as life. And Twisted Personality shouldn't be in the format. So you take stuff that you don't want in the format out, and then you look at CA and says, okay, well, what deals with it now?
Right. And CA still has one of the best skills since GX, which is crazy, because like that was one of the few decks that didn't need a really good skill. And they have the best one that we've had since GX. So
yeah,
really, really did great on that one.
Yeah, CAs are just like, they're unhealthy. They can OTK, they get too much protection. And like you said, Izana's like a really nutty boss monster for speed duels. Are they a lot healthier now? Yes, they're definitely beatable. They're very beatable right now, as long as you have a deck that can beat them.
Right. And that's the issue, right? It forces you to not play a lot of decks.
I mean, like, you know, like I'm doing like my whole road to rank thing, right? And like there's so often that I'm playing a deck and I run into CA and I'm like, all right, I guess I lose. My deck doesn't have an out to an Izana.
Yeah, so it's just, we're not at the point where outs to Izana are common.
Exactly.
So, yeah, because of that, it shouldn't, I don't know, I don't think it should be around even as much as it is. And that's the issue with both of these decks, right? Joey and this, is that with Banisher, you have the issue of, oh, I can't play graveyard decks now because they're just auto losing to a summon banisher if I don't immediately draw an out. And
Yeah.
then you're not being able to play a lot of other decks which focus on, like, say, destruction of monsters, or like, any kind of monarch deck which can't get over 2400 or something like that. You can't play certain decks because they don't have an out to Isana. So
Hmm.
I think, like, just like floodgating a bunch of decks that would be good otherwise is
Yeah.
is not something top deck should necessarily be doing.
No, and I mean, like, that was like the whole introduction to speed duels, right? Like, we had decks that could be played, but we had blue eyes, and if your deck couldn't kill a blue eyes, then your deck couldn't play. And it's the
Uh-oh. Oh no.
1 hour later.
and this is like basically exactly how speed duels started. We had blue eyes. There was lots of decks that could be played, but if you couldn't out a blue eyes white dragon, then your deck was unplayable. And this is the exact same thing that CA does. It's just that it wasn't caused by Matt, which is cool, I guess.
Yeah. And I think I want to address this on one other thing where people will say that, having deck diversity isn't necessarily important for a good format. But I want to point you to what people like the most, right? Which is Edison format right now is the hottest Yu-Gi-Oh! Retro format.
Yeah.
Why do people like Edison format so much? I think one of the biggest reasons is because there's like 8 decks at least that are tiered and
Yeah.
competitive. So that's kind of a big deal, right? Like that's proof right there, if nothing else is, that just being able to play different decks, that's one of the biggest appeals of Master Duel, right? You can play these decks that are otherwise rogue in, like, if you go to a YCS or something. But on Master Duel, if you know what you're doing, you can probably climb ladder with a rogue deck. So that's one of the appeals of Master Duel. Like, you can play a ton of different decks, and as long as you're not taking it too seriously and entering a big tournament.
Yeah, and like a variety is great, but what's also important is that you have a format that contains a lot of skill to win your matches, right? Variety is like number 1, and then skill is like number 2, depending on like your outlook on something. But at least if you have variety, you probably have some decks that require skill, right?
Yeah.
But people don't want to be sacked by an Izana that they just can't out, right? Because they tried to play something different. People don't want to just have a brainless back and forth between, oh, my banisher got the Joey boost, so mine hits over yours. Woohoo!
Yeah. Or
Right? I negated your widespread.
Do you have the shrink?
Literally, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, we want something that is like skillful, interactive, which I feel like we haven't had since like primarily Battle City format, and like when Crystal Beast was the best deck before we realized that there were better options, right? Which was just an unsolved format.
Right.
So
Well, the unsolved format was arguably the best time in Speed Duel.
it was genuinely, yeah.
And what you say about skill, I think a lot of it is also what happened there.
I don't know. Drake, come back.
Yeah. All right.
Drake.
Drake goes everywhere. No, but the skill thing, I think a lot of it comes down to decisions, right? You called it brainless. We used to call Moth brain dead for the same reason, where end phase attach parasite, main phase tribute for Moth attack. Like, that was very, like, there wasn't a lot of decision making there, right?
Yeah.
And one of the issues is the lack of consistency cards we have in our format, right? Like, Rhoda is limited 1. Blazeman's not good because it forces you to play dead cards in your deck, right? Polys. So we don't. As soon as we got Vampire Familiar and Vampire Retainer, Vampire immediately became a decent playable deck.
Yeah,
Because they have the consistency cards. They don't have the boss monster to finish off, but they have the consistency cards. So I think we're missing a lot of that for a lot of different decks that people want to play and that have discussed. It's just like the consistency, the searching. You'll notice modern Yu-Gi-Oh! If you play that or look into that at all, there's a lot of that. There is a lot of search for this. If you do this, you get to search for that, right?
Yep.
But it's not just, sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not just one specific card. You have to make a decision on what card do you need, what's your line, what are you going to take? So
yeah, for sure. And like, having like having a deck that doesn't require a bunch of thought is okay. Like those are fine for the format. There's going to be people that enjoy something that's more simplistic, and there's nothing wrong with that. But having it be the definitive best deck of the format, so essentially everyone is playing like brainless, it's not ideal. It's really not. Like, I feel like, I mean, like, this is something I wanted to bring up. The number one ranked player this format is Ursus. Ursus has never touched Joey in his life. He plays skillful decks and he just pilots them well, and he does well doing so. You don't have to play Joey. I get it if you do, but the issue is that Joey's just the best deck, so everyone just gravitates towards it, and it just so happens that, oh, well, the best deck is just normal summon, set your back row, and just activate your back row. Sometimes it matters when you use your back row, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. No, that's all it is.
Yeah. I mean, look at what Blaze today in finals. He lost the game. Why? Because he didn't draw the normal summon.
Yep. And the biggest
there was no skill.
And the biggest like decision we saw made was like, timing your shrink correctly.
Yeah.
And things like that, which is like, like sure, like it's fine for a while, but like we've been kind of in this beat down low speed format of Speed Duel for so long now. And the most recent list didn't really do anything to get us out of it. It didn't really do anything. All it did was stop Cyber Angels from OTKing Joey, which made it even better.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So, all right, let's move on to our third deck.
Yeah, so our third deck here is actually tied with Cyber Angels. Shockingly, most of this comes directly from the last Winnabox. And that's Dark Scorpions. Woo! So, yeah, new deck! Woohoo! Dark Scorpions are definitely cool. They are basically unplayable in Speed Duel's official competitive environments, which would be the remote duel main events.
Yes.
But outside of that, they're honestly a really, really solid deck. Chick has just great board control. You can swarm with Gorg, Chick, and Don Zalug if you have the right hand setup, like early on or later on in the game. It can put on like a lot of control, and you have multiple win options through deck out, through damage. Very, very cool deck. Good job, Konami, on the skill.
Yeah, no, really, good job.
Yeah.
Do I wish there was more like this? Absolutely.
Yes.
But we take what we can get. It's very good for Dueling Book online tournaments, as well as broke my train of thought by getting up. Dueling Book online tournaments. And oh my God, it's a special appearance.
Special guest.
It's a special guest.
Say hello.
Hi. Hey, puppy. Dueling Book. It's good for Dueling Book online tournaments as well as for in-person YCSs if you go to those. So
yes, exactly.
It's still good for something in the format, right? And we know Konami pays attention more to the in-person events. So as far as what they pay attention to, they might feel like they succeeded with this one, which they did. So
No, they definitely succeeded. If it wasn't for the fact that remote duels were just stupid, well, it'd be a great deck.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we got some positivity. Do we have a little bit more on the next deck?
Well, if we just want to focus on this one just for a little bit longer here, like it does decently well against Joey because it does have that, that board control. It doesn't need its graveyard, right?
Yeah.
It actually has a great matchup against Cyber Angels, the previous deck, because you put on an Izana, all right, put that back in your hand or put that back on top of your deck.
And his damage step. So even though it targets, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah. Izana
non-destruction damage step targeting.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Izana doesn't negate, so you cannot respond with the crackback of Izana in the damage step. So there you go. Yeah.
But and then the other deck that it probably has a little bit less of a chance against, especially if they open Ladybug, is the next deck on our list, and that is Vampires.
Woo! All right.
Vampires have 6 points. They're 3 points below the CA and the Dark Scorpion.
I just wish Vampires didn't have access to Twisted Personality and instead had access to whether it's Scarlet Scourge, whether it's Vamp, whether it's Grace, whether it's Grimson, whatever. Go search Vampire and Dueling Book in any of those level 6 or higher monsters that we don't have in Speed Duel, pretty much. Or even Red Baron is fine. So any of those monsters, and not Twisted Personality, just so the deck could function as an actual Vampire Monarch type deck, like zombie monarchs almost, right? That would be really cool. But we have what we have, which is as long as Twisted Personality exists, there's no reason to really play it any other way.
No, I mean, like you get, free counters. I mean, I think 3 times today in Toxic Legacy, I opened up with Familiar, Retainer, discard a card from my opponent's hand, set, what is it? Awakening. And pass. And that was my opening play. And TP does that, right? So how can you really choose something different?
Right. Nothing else allows you, or nothing else makes it as optimal to do that. So there's no reason to make any other opening play, go into any other skill, right? It's crazy because if we didn't have TP and we had a good like Vampire Monarch, a better one than we have, the Abido skill would actually see play.
Yeah,
which
it's just
is like
a foolish burial.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
You were so close.
So close.
You just didn't ban TP.
Literally.
So,
and that's the other thing too. This deck is like, it's great, but it burns through its life points so fast. But because Konami didn't hit TP and Ladybug correctly, if this deck ever sees a copy of Ladybug, just one, it can almost guaranteed win the match.
mm-hmm. Yep, we tested that. We found that out.
Yeah, Terramaster was playing macro. This should basically always win in theory. But if I open up a Ladybug, you just can't get enough damage in before I get 3 counters and I out your macro. Well, you better have drawn another one.
Yep. Pretty much. That's the story. So yeah, no, Vampires, it's cool that we got Familiar, Retainer, and Awakening, for that matter. What's not cool is that we have to play it optimally, you have to play TP. So it's just new toys for TP in the end.
Yeah, it is. And it still doesn't match up great against Joey. I think it's like I said earlier, I think it's like 60-40 for Joey or like 65-35. Because if they ever open Banisher, you need to have an out for it right then and there. Otherwise, like you're not going to win.
Yep. So, yeah, well. All right. So, I mean, look, 2 new decks in the top 4. Sort of. But
sort of. Yeah.
So that's, I think it's definitely a step up from midterms, but then it's like, how much is that really saying? Like, it's not saying much, but it's something.
Yeah, it is something, right? And like the new decks basically end here. There's like a few more that we could talk about, like a little bit. Like people, they bring Roids. A lot of people think Roids are good. I'm not really a Roid believer. I think it could be an okay deck, but I don't think 30 cards is.
Oh no,
the way.
No, sorry, Star Blast. 30 cards is not, unless you're playing The Grass is Greener, which means you're cheating because it's not in our card pool.
Yes.
I think 30 cards is almost always incorrect. That does not mean it's always 20, right?
No, it doesn't have to always. I played a 22 card deck today in the Toxic Judgment tournament,
and you got top 4.
And I got top 4.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be 20, but there are numbers between 20 and 30.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes. Play 22. Play 26 if you have to. You don't have to go all the way up to 30, right? When I played TCG Advanced, I played 41 or 42 card decks a lot. But when I put in the 41st card, I didn't go, oh, well, I guess I better find 19 more cards to put in. Might as well go up to 60. That's not what you're supposed to do. So, yeah, don't play 30 cards. You can play 23, 24, and Roids is probably, the Roids are probably all right, as they say.
Exactly.
So, yeah. All right. What else do we have?
We have Evil Hero would be the next deck, which is new.
Yeah. And is this including both Dark Gaia and Lightning Golem? Because I've seen Lightning Golem around.
They're both in the same category.
Okay.
So 2 points came from Dark Gaia for context and 1 from Lightning Golem.
Okay. Now I want to point out something we saw on stream today. I don't know if you were in the middle of playing when this happened, but
I think I probably was.
There was a Lightning Golem game, and we went in right at the end of it, and the player lost, because opponent summoned Izana.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, well, yep, nothing you can do about that.
I mean, like,
so it's a perfect example of what we were talking about, right?
yeah.
A cool
I was gonna
monster.
say, like, we had
a cool
like the
boss
same
monster.
thing like on stream when I did my Road to Ranked, right? And the only
Oh,
reason
yeah,
I
we
beat the
did, we
person
did.
was because they forgot to activate Izana when I targeted it.
Yes.
I DD crowed the protection, targeted the Izana, and they were just too focused on the fact that it was going to die, and they didn't out my lightning golem. That was the only reason I won.
Yep, I remember that. Opponent misplaying is a win condition, but
It
don't
is.
expect it to happen in a tournament of
Especially not in
high
like
stakes.
top cut, and you're
Right.
going up against like Stevie on CA or Ursus on CA. They know what they're doing. They're
They
not
know
going to
what
make
they-
that misplay.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not gonna make the misplay. So you just, because your deck is inherently unable to out Izana cleanly, right? I use the word cleanly.
Yeah.
You have almost no chance.
No, literally, it's
tough.
almost unwinnable. Almost unwinnable.
Yeah. So
And it's sad because like if that wasn't the case, I think Lightning Golem is better than Dark Gaia.
it is, because it's more consistent.
Exactly.
It controls the game a lot better. But obviously,
And it's so much cooler.
Yeah, but like we saw with Crystal Beast taking a hit for no reason, controlling the game is obviously not allowed in Speed Duel.
No, no.
Sorry, Lightning Golem. Let's talk about the other side of the evil hero spectrum. Let's talk about Dark Gaia. It's just an OTK deck for the most part. Right?
Yeah, it's an OTK. It bricks like decently often, but if you don't brick, you can just win right out the gate. And if your opponent doesn't have the correct back row, well, they lose.
Yep.
Like,
so it's
yeah, I played it once today. No, twice. No, once. The other deck was strange. I played against it once today.
okay.
And yeah, no, it literally came down to I outed his boss monster, the Dark Gaia, after surviving it. But then it came down to, does he draw Dark Calling before I'm able to draw like a back row that can stop the attack? And if that didn't happen, like if he did draw the Dark Calling, I would have lost, period.
Yep.
So it's like,
I mean, it's the definition of Saki.
yeah,
honest.
is it a bad deck? It's not horrible, but would I
It's-
consider it a good deck?
It's like, do you have it? Do I have it? Okay,
Yeah.
that's what decides the game.
Yep, yep.
It's pretty silly. It would be like if we had, limiter removal power bond, right?
Yeah.
It would be like, okay, do you have power bond limiter removal? Okay. Do you have sphere Karibo? Okay. Like that's it. That's
Yeah,
what the game
exactly.
comes down to. And that's not where we want to be. So like, as cool as Lightning Golem is, Dark Gaia is kind of not. It's cool.
Yes.
It feels cool to me right now because it's kind of like whoa, what just happened?
Nani?
Oh, it's
Yeah,
Drake.
we got Justice peeking in here.
Hello, I am Justice.
All right. Let's get this settled. Let's get this flattened out.
6 hours later.
So, Drake, we've talked about all the decks. We're all the way down to Evil Heroes. So we'll have you give your entire thoughts on this meta picture here once I finish. All right. So Drake is here, and I was talking about like how Dark Gaia is like the complete opposite of Lightning Golem, as you see things have swapped around on your screen. But this is a podcast. Nobody looks at the screen. You just
Exactly.
listen. Don't worry about it. So yeah, no, it's the opposite because it's Saki as much as Lightning Golem is controlling. It is very OTK heavy as much as Lightning Golem is once per turn destroy a monster on the field.
Yeah.
It's susceptible to one piece of back row as much as Lightning Golem goes, okay, I'll Dark Calling a second copy of Lightning Golem next turn and destroy another monster. Right?
Yeah.
So it's the complete opposite. They're both like under the evil hero category, sure, but they both play completely differently. And for different reasons, neither of them are really going to like get close to the top tier of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
They're
Drake.
fine decks. They're whatever.
So how I feel about Evil Heroes is I think Gaia is sort of a worse Cyber Angels, but it's a cool deck. I think Lightning Golem might be the better deck of the two.
Yes.
All right,
That's-
you agreed with us. Great.
That's what we were saying. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the reason I think that is because there's not as much removal this format as there was last format. So if everyone was on 3 offerings, I think Lightning Golem is just a bad card. But
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
in a world where it's a little more sticky, it's a decent rogue pick, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look, removal bad, OTK good, Banisher good, I guess.
Easy.
For now.
For now, yeah, beat down good.
Yeah, if we do want to continue,
Yeah.
I'll just get past the next deck here because it's the Cloudy and Fluke. So we'll just
No, we don't
we'll
wanna
just
talk
ignore
about
that one,
yeah.
and then we'll talk about Macro. Shout out to Raviel. He's the only person that has a Macro point on the leaderboard. Here's Macro. Who wants to talk about Macro? Who knows something about this
Jake, you
deck?
could talk about it.
I'll talk about macro.
All right.
So I'm actually surprised that it's only topped once because I think this deck is not only good against most of the meta, I think it's good against what is seeing the most representation. So mostly people are playing and topping with your Banisher Joey deck.
Yeah.
I think this deck has a very good matchup against that. DD Survivor just seems like an incredibly solid card. And when you pair that with Shrink and Hammershot, you're going to get rid of all their monsters, and they're going to have a hard time getting rid of all of your monsters. So I think you just win the grind game there.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, just to give you guys some context here, because I do have Raviel's win losses for his Speed Duel main event that he brought this to. So he fought 4 Joeys. He won 3 of those times.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Only lost to Joey once, and then his other loss was to Lightning Golem.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I mean, that makes sense, right?
And that adds up, right?
Bigger monster that controls the game.
Yeah, plus that deck
like,
plays triple breaker.
Yeah, that too.
Exactly.
There you go. Yeah. So a deck that is built in a way that counters yours, and that'll take care of you every single time.
Definitely.
So
I don't know about every time, but yeah, I could see that not being a great matchup.
No, definitely. I don't. Yeah. No, he beat Joey 3 out of the 4 times.
Right.
Like that definitely adds up. Exactly what Drake said. The deck has a great Joey matchup, and Joey is everywhere.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Odeon. Odeon had a good Joey matchup in the past when people were on Odeon.
Yeah.
Because you could outvalue them because you summon Swamp Mirror. It's 18, so it's bigger than their Banisher if that's what they have, and you draw a card. So you summoned a bigger monster than a boosted Banisher, and you +1'd off it, right? That's how you slowly start winning the grind game against Joey. So it reminds me of that, where your DD Survivor, they out it, okay, it comes back. So that is your plus of how slowly you're outvaluing Joey. Also, you might occasionally have a Dark Hole in Grand Conversion, so that probably helps.
I think that card's really good.
Yeah. It's not ban worthy, as Toxin said someone in his comments was saying. But someone in Odd Toxin's comments was apparently saying that Grand Convergence is way too strong and should be on the list. I thought that's really funny. They were like, it's a dark hole in your opponent's turn. I was like, it's not. It definitely has a restriction.
We have one of those already.
Yeah, we literally have Wildfire.
Yeah, and Wildfire, part of the engine did hit the list. So maybe Macrocosmos is gonna come next.
Yeah, maybe when they hit Banisher, they'll hit Macro at the same time. They'll be like, well, this does the same thing, right?
Oh, you put them both limit 3?
Yeah.
Or something weird like that.
100%.
Yeah, just make the list like, a freaking
giant
medieval scroll. We have to like open it and like read it out.
Can we get a limited 4?
Limited 4. You imagine the questions in the Discord that would come off of that?
Do I need to run 4 of this?
Do we mean I can run 4 of this? Like, no.
No.
Judges would quit.
But no,
I was about to say that.
What I like about the macro deck a little more than Odeon deck in a previous format is I think it has pretty good matchups overall. I think it might have some weak points, but so did Odeon. But I think that just denying access to the grave that comes up quite a bit. If you play against something like vampires, that's going to be good.
Yeah. Now, something we will say, and me and Terramaster mentioned this, we actually talked about vampires, is that if vampires do see a copy of Ladybug, the macro deck has a lot of trouble putting enough damage on board before they can just deal with the macro.
Right. Yeah. Before they can just, build up 3 counters, pop your macro, and then they're free to do whatever they want. So that's an issue. But again, if they don't see Ladybug, you're very good as the macro deck. You're feeling very good. So
also, Grand Convergence adds a counter, does it not?
Yes,
it does.
Yes, for only 300 damage.
I mean, clearing the board can be way more important than them getting a counter, but it does give them a counter.
It does. So you do have to be careful when you use it, which is like, see, it's not Dark Hole. Can't be reckless with it.
Can't be reckless.
Nope. Also, you don't play 3. If Dark Hole was at 3, everyone would play 3.
Yeah, where this is like a 1 or 2.
It's exactly.
Yeah. Actually, I like Raviel played 2 in his build, but he was on switcheroo, so it was less of a brick.
That makes sense. Yeah, because I was gonna say I think 1 is right, but 2 makes sense if you're on switcheroo.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Switcheroo is cool because you get the combo more consistently too with the survivor, the macro, the convergence. Yeah, that's kind of like that. All right, old skills coming through again.
Woohoo!
We've never seen that before. All right, are we at the end here? Do we have anything else?
Sevens.
No, we're gonna talk about that.
Sevens have points?
It's from Winnabox, which was no deck list required for Swiss. So I don't know if Ron played sevens through Swiss, but he played it in Top Cut. So
Okay.
All right, yeah, let's just do our final thoughts. All right, Drake, you got here late. What are your final thoughts on the entire meta dominated by Joey? And then second place, we have CAs and Dark Scorpions, and we pretty much talked about everything else.
24 points ahead of second place, Joey.
Yeah.
Okay. So my final thoughts are I predicted more vampire topping initially when I looked at this.
Vampires
meta.
was played, I think, twice.
I think there's a couple reasons why vampires isn't topping as much. I think not that many people are on it. I thought it would be a more popular deck. And I think that so many people are on these banishing decks that what would be a good deck in a vacuum, well, the meta's not a vacuum, and maybe you don't want to get paired up against all these banishers and macrocosmos. So maybe I overhyped that deck a little bit. Joey, we all knew that deck was going to be one of the best decks. It's kind of sad how long of a life it's had, but yeah. And I do think I think the macro deck is underrated, honestly.
Yeah. I'll say mostly the same thing. I think it's an issue that if you want to play vampires, you feel scared off of it to an extent because every other matchup, or not even every other, 4 out of 6, right? 2/3 of your matches are going to be against Banisher. So 2/3 of the games just come down to like, okay, if my opponent has the one card that outs my entire deck, then I have to play kind of like under paralysis, which is like, nobody wants to start a Pokemon battle and have all their Pokemon paralyzed at the start of it. You're not going to win many battles that way. So yeah, that's really like my take on the whole like Joey Banisher thing. It sucks because there's a lot of things that even I'd want to play that I don't feel like playing those games against Beatdown. So I don't want to enter competitive tournaments. But all right, Cursive, final thoughts.
Yeah, Joey Beatdown, like Drake said, it sucks that it's been around so long. I think vampires are a good deck. They definitely have to main deck for Joey because it's around that much, but they can win. I really, honestly, more than anything, I wish Dark Scorpions weren't bad because of remote
chick ban
technicalities.
Yeah.
And that's it for me, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was a short podcast, but we will be back next month to talk about the streets, since none of us think that this is going to see much change over the next month, because it's pretty much settled at this point, and whatever changes will just be like, oh wow, this is the new second best deck. Like, okay, cool. Like, okay, great. But yeah, until next month for State of Speed, Terramaster, Drake, Cursive, and Justice in Spirit, surely. We're out.